So here's here's my thought, my plan for today, and we'll see what happens. Today is Juneteenth, and I thought it would be nice to celebrate that, to acknowledge it. So when we do the service, it will be an acknowledgement of what is now amazingly a federal holiday. I forgot announcements, but that was an announcement. Let me back up a minute. June 29th, there is an all-day sitting and there is a Jukai. Please come, please let the registrar know you're coming. Second announcement, which also ties into this, is I'm part of the Sanctuary Coalition. It's been really fun to meet with people, and we are planning and will send out a flyer very soon, that on July 2nd, so it's a short lead time. There will be a fast, which people will do privately in whichever way that it could be food fast, news fast. It's anyway. There will be suggestions from sundown to sunset, and then there will be a vigil at the Santa Rosa Farmers Market. And everyone is invited, peaceful, in solidarity of immigrants, LGBTQ, vulnerable people, just sitting and bearing witness to just wishing everyone well and safety. And so, which brings me back to where I was a minute ago. So I thought today, question of what is freedom? You know, it's like we say, may all beings be happy, may all beings be well, may all beings be free. What are we talking about? And what are these Zen koans? We've been studying Zen koans. Koans are about freedom. So what is that? So there's worldly freedom, and there's the freedom of the absolute, or I suppose we could say spiritual, or freedom of mind and heart, freedom in the deepest sense to be and enact who we truly are, to embody who we truly are. So I hope you'll bear with me. Koans in the Soto tradition are, as I've been saying, family stories. It's a way that we, stories about freedom, and stories about waking up, and stories about interconnection resonate and ripple and resound across time and space. So the question and the koan has been, so what do these ancient koans have to do with now and with our life? Are they just something locked back then with a couple of crazy, mostly Zen guys, saying and doing crazy things, and that's nice, but what's it have to do with here? So I found a great article by Joan Sutherland, who's in the Aiken Roshi tradition, and their tradition is koan study. So is that it? Whatever needed to get fixed? Are we do yet? So I found a wonderful article, I think. I hope you'll enjoy it. I'm going to share parts of it and maybe say little things along the way. I thought I will share Joan Sutherland's words about koans for troubled times, because she completely makes this link about what do these what was happening back in China back then that could have anything to do with now, and she makes, I think, a very clear line or circle. And then I thought we would do service, and then hopefully there'll be time when we can have a discussion afterwards about what is freedom. So that's my thought. The koan tradition was born at an urgent moment in Chinese history similar perhaps to today. 1200 years ago, a few Chan or Zen and innovators had a fierce desire to leap out of the usual way of doing things and into new territory. Not to escape the catastrophe looming around them, but to more fully meet it. Sounds good to me. If they were going to be helpful, they had to develop, and quickly, flexibility of mind, an easy relationship with the unknown, and a robust willingness to engage with life as they found it. For them, Chan Zen practice wasn't about getting free of the world, it was about being free in the world. So there's that word, free. Not free of the world, not transcending it, not thinking there's someplace else that we're gonna get out of here too. Not the path of the arhats as it's known and sometimes disparaged in our tradition, but being free in the world, which is really the path of the Mahayana Bodhisattva. The first koans are field notes from their experiment in the getting of this kind of freedom. In the 8th century, Chinese culture was flourishing. So happy culture, people were well, everything was happening, and I would guess everybody thought things were just fine. It's like, wow, this is good. These things just keep happening, don't they? We just think, how could this happen now? Well, okay, so we'll just see what they might have to teach us. At the same time, the strains of empire were beginning to show. A huge country with an imperial foreign policy had a long border to defend, constant warfare, taxes, making it harder for people to have food and agency in their own lives. And then, so they started bringing in mercenary armies to help. And while it worked for a while, sooner or later, of course, any solution you come up with sooner or later, it's going to have a light and a shadow, right? The foreign armies refused to leave. Shocking. I mean, I'm sorry. I was a history major. That was part of what I said. So I enjoyed this. I hope you guys do too. They set up a rebel stronghold in the ancient capital of Chang'an, the city of everlasting peace. This on Lushan rebellion ushered in a decade of civil war, famine, and disease, so devastating that 2 out of 3 Chinese died. 2 out of 3. You know, I mean, again, it's that historical view too of we so much have our own view, but if you look at the history of Russia and what happened, or people that have happened and died in wars in China, and people just want to be happy and free, right? It's what all came the Dalai Lama says that. Well, everybody wants to be happy. And it happened in a blink of an eye. China went from being one of the greatest empires in the world that the world had ever seen to a nation devastated by conflict and starvation, and its population had shrunk by 2/3 in about 10 years. A kind of order was eventually restored, but it would be centuries before the country fully recovered. This is a description from the great poet from that era, Du Fu, during the rebellion. He wrote a poem called "The View This Spring." The nation is destroyed, mountains and rivers remain. Some Zen practitioners saw what he saw from their own perspective. In our world, things are always going to be broken and mended and broken again, and there is also something that never breaks. Everything rises and falls, and yet in exactly the same moment, are eternal and go nowhere at all? How do we see with a kind of binocular vision? One eye aware of how things are coming and going all the time, sees this world, but doesn't ignore this world, that is completely in this world, and at the same time, be aware of the vast spaciousness. I'm going to use a language a little different than hers because our traditions are a little different. Of the isness of everything, and that there is this world that the Pure Land Buddhists would say the Pure Land is already here. It's our job to bring it into manifestation. So we see with the eyes. I said, and I read somewhere that what a Buddha can see, a full Buddha sees with both eyes all the time. With us, because we're human beings and we see with duality, we see ones and twos, is we pendulate. That's what we do, and that's what practice is. And when we sit down in Zazen, that's what we do, is we sit this wonderful, very human, very diluted, very perfect in this moment, body, heart, mind, down in this Buddha body. And I always feel like what we're doing when we're coming home, taking refuge is to fly home to. But I also really believe in a way that on a cellular or mysterious level, we're reconnecting our DNA, our nervous system to this isness, this oneness, the one heart of the world, that we remember what we already know, and that something happens, not just to this person, but it happens in the room, you can feel it, and it happens across time and space. So it's a very sacred and very ordinary act, what we're doing. So back to Joan Sutherland, Matsu and Shitao. Shitao, because we just studied the harmony of difference and equality, Sandokai. He was alive during this time. We like to think that the Buddha arose out of peaceful times, and Shitao, but I think probably it's not a surprise that times were hard, and so people said, I want to wake up, I want to help. What can I do? They asked, what does it mean for each of us to be wholeheartedly part of this world? How do we fall willingly into the frightened, blasted, beautiful, tender world just as it is? Then she says, it's not a surprise these two creative geniuses at this time came from the margins of Chinese society. They weren't high and refined people. Shitao was open-minded and curious. He was deeply influenced by Taoism and Huanyan Buddhism, which is the Avatamsaka Sutra, which we're going to get to in the fall. And the rebellion apparently only deepened his conviction that sectarianism causes nothing but suffering. I think that's part of Suzuki Roshi, who came here, as he came out of World War II in Japan, and he saw what happened when cultures become more and more diluted and divided amongst themselves and then acted out in the world. Same way Thich Nhat Hanh, same Dalai Lama. They come out of this environment. He had seen where grand schemes and big ambitions could lead, and while differences between people were naturally taught, when we start attaching values to the differences, we open the door to heartache. Hence, if you'll remember, harmony of difference and equality, and the way there are no northern or southern ancestors. It starts out right there, just starts out completely in the world, and then plays with all the dualities and keeps trying to take us beyond. Matsu, who's also Basho, because Chinese and Japanese different names, was born in the far west of China near the border with Tibet, and was the son of the town garbage man. Isn't that great? You don't have to be somebody special. His teaching style was direct, uncompromising, and often physical. He was one of those guys who whacked people. When he was asked about the essence of the school, he replied, "Oh, it's just the place where you go to let go of your body and your life. It's just the place where you go to let go of your body and your life." That was quite a statement during a time when everyone knew people who had lost both. From his perspective, the situation was so urgent and the need was so great that there wasn't time for people to despair or lack confidence or run away. It's as if he were saying, we need you to get clear right now about your own nature and the nature of life so that you can roll up your sleeves and start doing something about it. I enjoyed this article. Shitao's descendants emphasized reconciliation and restoration of peace and stability in times of chaos. Mao's line valued Zen's independence from the mainstream and allowed it to offer both a critique of the status quo and an alternative to it. Now, what's interesting, or ongoing interesting for me anyway, is that until then, up till this time, Zen or Chan had mostly been introspective. You know, you sit down, you take care of yourself, you look in. For example, clearly seeing your own original nature inside yourself. That was what you were doing. That's what awakening meant. In Shitao's words, completely turning it, what meets the eye is the way. This true self you are looking for, they said, is not just here in your own heart and mind, but it is everywhere. It is the whole world. This is it. The entire world is Buddha's body. Everything you see is Buddha nature. Everything shines with that light. Everything you see is you. And this at a time when what you saw included blighted fields, refugees starving by the roadside, deserted towns, parents mourning their children killed in the war. There's something moving about the large and generous spirit of these two men who responded to the devastation around them by saying, "This is all me. All of this is you." They showed that the way to come to terms with life's pain is not turning away from them, but by moving deeper into life and encouraging as many others as possible to join you. They survived the great matter of the time. They embraced the great matter of their time. What do you do now? What do you do at this time? Now, another interesting thing is up till this time, most of the teaching happened in lectures given to large groups of people. So it was very impersonal. And that still happens. It's just the teacher talks and you guys don't say anything. And it's really nice that you showed up and I'm going to tell you what's going on. But what started happening here and from here on and in Zen is that there started being intimate meetings between two people. So we call that Dokusan, where you actually talk to each other and you meet each other. And then we take it even further and we have small groups and we talk to each other and we listen to each other and each person is a Buddha and what is it that, so we stay in relationship. That a particular intimate meeting with a particular other opens us to an intimate relationship with life itself. Couple of koans, thought we just throw some in just so we remember where we're going. Jitao's thing was, he tended to say, "Are you sure about that?" A monk came and said, "What about liberation? What about freedom?" And his answer was, "Who binds you?" Mao, on the other hand, startled people out of their habitual thoughts and into another territory entirely. His was, what is it like to have no position at all? Someone asked, Shito, I don't think I have one here. But she didn't. Anyway, we'll go on. Oh, yes, here it is. Here's what Ma says. Want to know? Matsu? The mind that doesn't understand is exactly it. Ordinary mind is the way, not knowing is the way. There's nothing else. The mind that doesn't understand is exactly it. What is curious, open, wonder? Ma was passionate that responding to our time is an essential part of realization. He once said that from the point of view of the Bodhisattva, burying oneself in emptiness and not knowing how to get out of it is like suffering the torrents of hell. As our hearts and minds open in meditation, it is actually painful not to open our hands as well. For Ma, hell wasn't the trouble he saw all around him. Hell was turning away from it and trying to escape into a separate peace. Ordinary mind is the way. Every moment, every circumstance is another chance to experience things as they are rather than as we wish or fear them to be. Fundamental wholeness and responsibility and responsiveness. The freedom of having no position. Mom would say. Go out and benefit what cannot be benefited. Do what cannot be done. So you don't have to know what's. You don't even have to know what you're going to do or where you think we're headed. That's what the beauty of this tradition is it just gives us a ground to stand on, or a groundless ground, to open to the cries of the world, to open to the sounds and the beauty of the world, and then see what arises next. Put down your despair and your hope, begin from no position at all, and look for what becomes possible when you do. Including paragraph. Thank you for staying with us. When all is said and done, how well did Shitao and Mao respond on their time, to their time? One of Ma's heirs said that his teacher taught him two crucial things. First, that each of us is already endowed with the treasure of everything we need. Our enlightenment is already here. Freedom is already here, as is our kindness and our curiosity and our courage. Second, each of us is free, there's that word again, to use that treasure to respond to life around us. Our freedom to fall willingly into the frightened, blasted, beautiful, tender world, just as it is already here. To know for ourselves that we have that treasure and that we're free to use it, no matter the circumstances, is a happy one. Nice article, huh? Yeah, a perspective of someone who deeply hurt their traditions. Koans, stay with the Koans, stay with the Koans. So now we'll pivot, although it's not a pivot at all, to Juneteenth. And I think, we're living in a time where nobody knows who we are, where we are, what's happening, and Heather Cox Richardson, for anybody who listens to her, really equates this time and how much of it, she's a historian, flowed out of this is my summary, the seems to me unresolved things from the Civil War, just divisions that are really deep. So Juneteenth, and the fact that it's now a federal holiday, and today that we'll celebrate that. She today put out a little 3-minute video about Juneteenth, and I thought, well, I could do a little riff about what I think Juneteenth is, but why not go to the experts? So we're going to put it on screen, and you can watch it, and then I'll tell you about the service from there. Oh yeah.
After more than 4 years of war, Confederate General Edmund Kirby Smith to the United States on June 2, 1865, in Galveston, Texas. Then he fled to Mexico. Just over 2 weeks later, Major General Gordon Granger of the U.S. Army arrived in Galveston to take charge. He told people there that since Texas had left the Union in 1861, the nation had. In January 1863, President Abraham Lincoln had signed the Emancipation Proclamation. It said that enslaved Americans living in states that were in rebellion against the United States shall be then, thenceforward, and forever free, and that the executive government of the United States, including the military and naval authority thereof, will recognize and maintain the freedom of such persons. Texas had been in rebellion.
I'll give it a pause for a second.
If you,
Yeah, it's working?
it's working.
Yeah,
We
it's
just
because
won't
I
be able to see
screwed this up. I don't know why. I thought I was doing, I thought I was doing, the volume and I was doing the channel, so.
Ooh, you got a volume, that's the volume.
I got
button
the
you
volume
pressed
now,
on,
how do we
yeah.
get this to work? Quas.
We watch it on the smaller screen.
We can watch it on the big screen if I can figure out this.
You can do that.
Which input are we? No, weird. Huh. Sorry about that.
A great opportunity, so things that was not.
Oh, yeah. So much not knowing. If we turn it off and on again, will that do something?
Or we can just do it on the screen and,
Yeah.
I mean, you guys can hear it, right? I mean.
Granger's General Order Number 3, issued on June 19th, read, "The people of Texas are informed
Yeah, do you want to go back
that
to the
in
beginning,
accordance
Chris?
with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an. After more than 4 years of war, Confederate General Edmund Kirby Smith surrendered the last major army of the Confederacy to the United States on June 2, 1865, in Galveston, Texas. Then he fled to Mexico. Just over 2 weeks later, Major General Gordon Granger of the U.S. Army arrived in Galveston to take charge. He told people there that since Texas had left the Union in 1861, the nation had changed. In January 1863, President Abraham Lincoln had signed the Emancipation Proclamation. It said that enslaved Americans living in states that were in rebellion against the United States shall be then, thenceforward, and forever free, and that the executive government of the United States, including the military and naval authority thereof, will recognize and maintain the freedom of such persons. Texas had been in rebellion. Granger's General Order Number 3, issued on June 19th, read, "The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor." Black people in Galveston met the news Order Number 3 brought with celebrations in the streets. But emancipation was not a gift from white Americans. Black Americans had fought and died for the United States. They had worked as soldiers, nurses, and as day laborers in the Union Army. Those who could had demonstrated their hatred of enslavement and the Confederacy by leaving their homes for the Northern lines, sometimes delivering valuable information or material to the Union, while those unable to leave had hidden wounded U.S. soldiers and helped them get back to Union lines. In December 1865, Americans added the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, abolishing enslavement, except as punishment for a crime. The next year, Texas freed people gathered on June 19, 1866, to commemorate the day they heard of their freedom, with prayers, speeches, and parties. By the following year, the federal government encouraged Juneteenth celebrations, eager to explain to black citizens the voting rights that had been put in place by the Military Reconstruction Act in early March 1867. Celebrations of Juneteenth declined during the Jim Crow years of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. But as Black Americans from the South spread across the country during and after World War II, they brought Juneteenth with them. By the 1980s, Texas had established Juneteenth as a state holiday. Other states followed, and in 2021, thanks in part to pressure from activist Opal Lee, Congress made Juneteenth a federal holiday.
You didn't know you were gonna come with Saga
Welcome.
and get a history lesson. So Juneteenth is a celebration. How do I get out of this?
It wasn't very long ago. 1865 is very long.
Wasn't very long ago?
Yeah, it's not very long
No,
ago.
it's not very long ago at all. Can you help me, Kristen, get out of here? Sure. I might break it.
Well, you didn't have me get it.
There we go. So.
You have to do these kind of things, that's not the result of history.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So